So I'm looking at some intersections from Cities in Motion 2. And I'm going to look at the way the traffic is flowing. And in my game, as I've said many times on this map, I don't tend to have a lot of traffic jams because I cleared out all of the problems I had, including over here. This used to be a heavily jammed highway. Now the traffic jam is a little bit less than it used to be. But the problem here is that everybody wants to get into the right lane. You'll see that the vehicles from the heavier road are occupying the right lane, and for example, we've got a bus crossing over and there's some vehicles behind it. Chances are they're going to head for that right lane also. And what they're doing is they're cutting off the vehicles on Elk Way. See this guy over here headed for the right lane, and it's a problem. And the reason why they're doing that is because they want to be on the right lane when they get to the other side. So I have that little traffic problem, and you can see they're getting on this little service road. Oh, this is actually interesting. The cars are heading south. They're going into that right lane, and the vast majority of them are taking what's called Cypress Way, which is this turn, and heading southbound. There's different ways to fix this, and one way is to have the southbound traffic come from this main artery here, which has light use. It's not getting a lot of traffic. I'm going to look at some other traffic jams. I'm going to show you how I fix them. Over here I have a complicated bus system, and I probably have, let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines coming through this general area. And I know it looks pretty complicated, but I had to build various bridges so that they have one lane coming in, one lane going out, and they go over a bridge to prevent being blocked from other traffic. And some of them will go out on this main intersection, but the others will go here where these tunnels are. I'm sorry I brought up those windows. And we're going to look at the underground traffic, and you can see that one of them goes under the road and connects to this other road. Another one, which has this bus on it, connects to this intersection. And we've got another one that comes through this waypoint that's actually feeding it into the bus depot area. And then I've got these 3 bus lanes coming in, here, here, and here, so that different bus lines can queue up, offload their passengers. You can follow this bus. He goes under the intersection. He merges with another line, goes under another intersection, including the highway. And from here, he can get to his depot, which is actually, he has a choice of 2 different depots he can go to. So once I built all of those underpasses, I didn't have traffic congestion problems. I used to have a line of buses, and it would go beyond this road. Not only would it be on this road, but it would be on these other roads connecting to it, and it was not only going in, but it was also coming out. And when you have this bus congestion, you have congestion with automobiles also. And you don't want that. Now over here you can see I've got 450 people at the Sydney Opera House. These people have been waiting for a long time, and we don't want them to wait too long because it's a loss of money if they disappear. So what I'm going to do, I've got 15 trains on the monorail line, and I'm going to increase that with a custom timetable. Right now I've got them coming every minute. So what's happening is, once a minute, one of the trains is on this line headed towards the Sydney Opera House, and I'm going to reduce it perhaps to 40 seconds, and we'll see what happens. You can see that the monorail line 12 has increased to a maximum of 19 vehicles. Over here where it says vehicles available, there are 20 vehicles, so there's one spare, so I'm going to buy a few extra vehicles. Perhaps 5 more. And I'd like to point out that this particular depot only has the one monorail line, which is right there. Hopefully they'll pick up people a little bit faster and get them out of there. Again, I don't have a lot of congestion because I've been working at this a long time to remove the congestion. So likewise, I don't have a lot of people standing around. But what I do know is that the people tend to be where the metro is. So I'm going to switch to the metro and I'm going to shut off the monorail. The metro is depicted in green on the mini-map. So here you can see the metro lines. The metro carries a lot more people. And because of that, there's going to be a lot more people walking on the surface streets where the metro connects. Over here you can see I have like a diamond shape. This is actually a way that the metro lines can switch from north to south and east to west. I used to have more complicated designs where I had lots of trains running in parallel and I had grand stations, but I haven't found that necessary yet in this game. Now what happens with these metro lines is they move a lot of people, so when they get to their destination, they dump a lot of people. And you can very quickly have a lot of people get off at a metro in order to make a transfer somewhere else. And this large group of people, when they cross the roads, will block the roads and will block traffic. And you'll also get it on the bridges. If you study your bridges, you'll see that there are people on the bridges. For example, there is a person right here, Annabelle Smith. And if you look in these areas, eventually what's going to happen, a lot of the pedestrians are using the lower pedestrian bridge that I created. So it's a good idea to have these pedestrian bridges. They really do work. People really do use them. But what's going to happen, all these cars are going to get blocked at some point. And the reason why is because there are pedestrians on this highway, and they are currently headed, here's one now. You can see this pedestrian, Sabrina Young. She's going to go to this off-ramp area. And when she gets here, if she has to cross that road, all the cars are going to have to stop. And there's a chance she might do it again at the next intersection. So when she gets here, we're going to find out what happens. Looks like right now she is waiting. There she is. But at some point, obviously, she is going to walk forward. She has been waiting a long time. Here comes another pedestrian. The second pedestrian is also waiting. And here they go. So these two have decided to go down the off-ramp. But it seems like one of them has stopped right here, Sabrina Young. So I'm going to predict that she's probably going to cross the road, which she just did. When she made that crossing, if there were a lot of cars here and perhaps more pedestrians, she could have caused a traffic jam. So when you see traffic jams on your expressways, it could be because people are walking on them. Now you'll notice, again, looking at the lower pedestrian bridge that I created, there's a lot more pedestrians on that lower bridge. Right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the pedestrian bridge and 0 on the expressway. If I didn't do that, the expressway would have a lot of people on it and they would be stopping traffic constantly. So that was one of the ways I reduced my traffic jams. The busy stops tend to be where people are first arriving or first leaving the islands. Like, for example, over here you see a lot of people waiting at this monorail stop and the lower monorail stop. So we've got a lot of people waiting here, and these trains are coming from the other island. Let's see where these people are going. Turned it too far. Okay. So we have people that are using this monorail, which is through this stop right here that's highlighted in white. They're using this monorail to go further onto the island. And same with this other stop that's highlighted in white. So they're waiting at the north of the island, and they're using this to get down. But the question is, where are these people coming from? And if you look at the surface streets, you can see that a lot of people are coming from the direction of the metro. And if we watch the metro trains come in, we'll probably see it dump a lot of people, and we'll probably see a crowd of people heading towards these other stops over here. Now here's another interesting design that I made. When you build something like a tram, trams are relatively long vehicles. You want to have a long road, and one of the things that you can do is you can actually build the road. Here's an example of one that goes across a river to get to the tram depot. This tram depot that's highlighted in white is actually servicing traffic on the other side of the river. This bus depot is servicing bus lines that are on the other side of the river. I'm going to show you an example. Look for where this line is highlighted. I have to turn off the other lines for you to see it. But you can see that this is the end. And if you have a lot of vehicles queued up, a bridge is a great place to do it, because it's a long road that doesn't have any buildings on it, doesn't have any intersections, and you can have a lot of vehicles queued up on that road as long as people can still pass. So what I often do with these busy tram lines, what I could have done is I could have built a bridge that goes across this river on the right here, and I could have built the depot on the right side and had a long bridge for all the trams to queue up on. But there's a reason why I don't do that. And the reason why is because when you do that, the trams are not doing any work, and it creates a big problem. You can see over here it says tram line 13, and it says that there's 13 trams running out of a total of 13. You don't want those 13 trams to be in a line. You want them to be actually around and picking up passengers. If you have vehicles waiting, it prevents them from going on other routes where they might be necessary, or on the routes that they originally came from. I am going to show my underground highway. Right over here, it actually starts even further down here. You can see that there is an underground highway, which is highlighted in white. This underground highway only makes a few connections to each island, perhaps 2 or 3, and that's it. And the idea is people that want to bypass this island can take that highway and have less congestion. The above-ground highway has many on-ramps and off-ramps. Perhaps there could be 10 or 20 all along the way. So as you can see here, this is the above-ground highway. That's the intersection. There's an on-ramp which is right here, that goes to the lower highway. And you can see that there's some cars that are taking advantage of it, and you can see that there are cars riding on that lower highway. Over here, you can see this on-ramp that allows these cars to return back to the upper highway, so they can bypass the congestion that might occur on this road level. Over here, you'll see that there is the upper highway, and then there's a service road next to it. The service road has all the connections, all the on-ramps and the off-ramps, and it merges back with the main highway. But it also has an off-ramp, which cars are obviously using to get to the lower highway. And I haven't seen a lot of vehicles on the lower highway. Sometimes it does get a traffic jam, but I haven't seen it in a while. Over here you can see the lower highway. This is subterranean, it's under the ground. And occasionally you will see that there is a connection that brings it back up to the surface. You don't want that connection to go to these regular surface roads. If you do that, you're going to have problems, because when they try to get onto the surface road, they're going to have to wait at the light. It's going to create a line of cars behind it. You want connections like this. I've got this connection here, which you can see is actually quite long, but this road goes from my main upper highway through this single lane off-ramp, and it connects to, over here you can see it's going underneath, and it's connecting to my lower highway. And then over here we have another connection, which is right here, which allows people from the lower highway to go back up to the upper highway. However, that is for them to head eastbound. And even though it is to head eastbound, they can turn on this arc, and they can return west, they can go south going that way, and they can head north going that way. So that connection does allow them access to every direction. When I built my highway system, I made the decision that I would build as many aspects of the highway as possible above ground. And I would reserve below ground for the train system, the metro system. Here's another example of an on-ramp that brings traffic from the lower roadway to the upper roadway, but it goes to a surface road, not actually onto the highway. And I'm pretty sure that there's at least one more connection which is actually heavily used and not far from here. This is it right here. You can see it's a spiraling loop. So traffic can take this spiraling loop to work their way up to the elevated highway. One of the things that I did do is, when I did design my highways, I did not design them to be elegant. I designed them to have the best traffic flow. For example, you'll see that this road, which comes from the comes from the west and heads south, has a smooth curve. And I tried to make as many smooth curves as possible, because that's where most of the traffic is going. If you want to continue east, you would continue on this little on-ramp, and it doesn't get that much use. I'm going to show you the water buses. You can see on the mini-map that the water bus system goes around all the islands. And it's not that popular. Not that many people use the ferry system. But it basically zigzags back and forth, goes around the island. I only put it there because there might be some people that can use it as an optimal path, but I don't think it's very many. and also they're pretty easy to build. Over here I'm seeing a line of vehicles. Let's take a look, see what's going on over here. Okay, so we've got a line of vehicles going into this building. We have 1323 buses, 3343. We have enough buses so that all the lines can be full to capacity, plus have 20 waiting for repairs, which would be a total of 43 is the maximum, but we have 42. And for some reason, you can see that only 4 out of the 5 and 4 out of the 5 are running, which means that these bus lines are running one bus short. It creates this queue when you have the excess. You look at bus line 37, you see there's an excess bus, which is why you have buses queuing up. One of the things that I've noticed is that it doesn't exactly translate. You'll see a bus leave, and it takes a little bit of time before it updates over here. Now, the way to fix this queue is very simple. Let's look at bus line 38. I'm going to pause it. This first bus is line 38, and this bus is line 38. So we've got 2 buses. For bus line 38, 2 of the 4 buses, that's half of the buses, are waiting in line, and they're not even on the route. So what's happening here, you'd think that those 4 buses are on the route picking up passengers, but they're not. They're sitting here in line. And with bus line 39, I see one here, and I see one here. So bus line 39 has the same problem. We've got 2 of the 4 buses are just sitting there instead of being on their route. And you can see it's actually quite a short route, not very profitable. We can go and check the schedule, and if I wanted to, I could increase the number of buses that go on that route, which would mean that there would be less over here. But the essential problem is that you've got this bus depot 11, and you've just got too many buses here that are standing around doing nothing. And it will say standing in bus depot 11. There's 20 buses in that bus depot standing around doing nothing. So how many are in queue? You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 buses waiting in line. What we can do is get rid of 9 buses. Where it says standing in bus depot 11, I'm going to hit the X for 9 of them. 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6, that's 7, 8, 9. So I got approximately 9, and I'm going to hit play, and all these buses are going to roll right in. And this queuing is not that big of a deal. You don't want passengers on these buses while they're waiting. And it is important because now you can see it used to say for bus line 38, 4 out of 5, and bus line 39, 4 out of 5. Now you can see that it's more accurate, that there's really only 2 buses on those lines that are out and picking up passengers. I'm going to look to see if there's any other congestion anywhere. Over here it always looks like there's a lot of congestion. And the reality is that we do have a lot of monorails over here. Some are going out, some are coming in, but it looks like there's a line of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trains coming in. So I'm going to count where it says monorail line 1 from this box over here. It says the number 8, and then below it 10, below it 11, and below it 11. And I'm going to total those up. That's 10, 20, 30, 40 trains. And vehicles available, we have 48. So we have 8 trains that are not running on a line. Maintenance capacity of 18, which means we have 10 available spaces for monorails to roll into the depot. So what that means is that we have plenty of space for trains to roll into the depot. But for some reason, there's a little bit of a queue forming, and I don't think it's anything major. If I purchase 8 more trains, it will back up. One of the examples that I told you is that there is a capacity. This holds, the highest capacity is 36 seats, and then there's the maintenance requirement per 100 kilometers. For this one, it's 6.5. So for this system, you could just buy the Toyota Shibuya City monorail, and you should be fine, even though the Capital Palm only needs 6 minutes per 100 kilometers. It's pretty close to 6.5. But that's something you want to check, because you do want to have a little bit of mix. If you have vehicles that have a low percentage, I don't see any here. For example, this 87% requires maintenance to get it back up to 100. You want it to get up there as quickly as possible. So you want those vehicles that maintain themselves faster. Somewhere on my map, I do have a 1-lane highway that I came across. Let's see if I can find it. The large number of people that used to be waiting here has gone away. One of the first things I did was increase the number of trains running on that line, and it looks like it resolved that problem. I wish I could find that that 1-lane highway. I know I saw it. I originally had one over here, but I had lost it when the game crashed. And it's not over here. Now, the other thing I would like to talk about is you've got these expressways that have a bus lane. Often these bus lanes are more trouble than they're worth, and often I would recommend to avoid using them unless you absolutely need them, because it will use up one of your lanes, and it will cause problems when you have a merge, because vehicles won't be able to use that rightmost lane, which means that when they merge in, instead of merging into 5, they might only be merging into 4. And it's the merge that's key, because that's where a lot of the congestion occurs. One of the other things that's interesting about my map is that over here I actually have a circle, which I was aware of when I built it, so people can actually drive in a complete circle forever using this little arched road over here. I'll show you a better example. The circle goes from here and around, complete circle. And it wasn't intended to be that way, but the reason why I put the circle in is because it allows people from the westbound traffic to switch to eastbound traffic. They would come on this little circle. I'll show you how. Come from here onto there, and they can come around and head back east. And a lot of cars aren't going to do that, but you might want to do it for your buses, which is the reason why I finally decided to add it. And plus, you can have vehicles coming from the surface that make it on that eastbound route. There's an island here. If you play this map, you're going to see this island. And one of the things about this island is I just don't get a lot of people coming from the island or going to the island. So I would say that there's no miracle amount of traffic coming from here. If you randomly inspect buildings, you will find sometimes that buildings are just empty, and there's no way to know that it's empty Like here's an example where you have only 5 homes while the other buildings have 10. But you're going to come across some that have 0. For example, this one has 7 workplaces, but only 1 worker. So this building is almost empty. And obviously empty buildings are not very useful. Over here, we have what can be a crowded bus line. And this bus depot over here, this actually has buses that go on the highway. So I had to make it easy for the buses to get onto the highway and get back into the bus depot. And what I did is I used a dedicated bus line so that the cars would not use that line. You can see from bus line 47 that they're coming in. So you want to use the dedicated bus lines as often as possible. And I see people making mistakes when they lay down the lines. One thing you'll notice is that my bus line doesn't have any sidewalks, whether it's on the bridge or on this surface road right over here. There's no sidewalks, and you should not put road down that has sidewalks over here, because the sidewalks are used for placing buildings. And I want to show another underpass, which is actually right over here. There's 2 of them. Over here, I get a lot of lines because all these trams, I'm going to turn on all the tram lines. I don't have complete tram coverage, but you can see on the northern island, a lot of the roads have tram lines. And what was happening is they're all coming from these depots, the 2 tram line depots that are here. And it does cause a lot of congestion because these trams that were going up this road, they weren't doing anything, they're just passing through. So what I did was I created this this underground line that's here on the left. It allows the trams to bypass a couple intersections, and I made this other one here on the right, which goes diagonally, and it also allows the trams to bypass a couple of the intersections. So when you do that, it gets past the point where it doesn't really do any work, and it gets to the point where it's actually picking people up and dropping them off. If you want to, you can have the tram lines go onto the expressway. There will be times when it's useful and times that it's not. Now here's a terminating point for one of the tram lines. And I'm going to use this stop as an example. You can see that there are 3 different tram lines that connect on that stop. One of them is tram line 12, which goes east and west. And then you have tram line 20. I can't tell exactly where it goes, but I will explain what it's doing. And you've got tram line 22. What's happening with these 3 tram lines, one of them is going all the way around the island. Another one is going east and west through the middle of the island. And the third one is just a route from a southern depot to get to a higher point on the island and then cut across. So you want to share as many of these stops as possible. I intentionally did it on this line, and I should have done it on all the others also. I'll show you another example. Here's another one. You can see this goes around a large block to make its turnaround to head back in the western direction, and it's going to stop here. Tram line 19 and 20 can exchange passengers without the passengers having to walk. And you'll notice that I do the same thing here. I've got this other line here that goes onto the outer ring, and it exchanges passengers with the outside. And I'm going to have it on all of these tram lines. And it will exist on the other end also. Now over here it's a little bit different. The road is a little bit more confusing over here, so when I built it, I had them not overlapping right at the edge, but there's more than one line that's going around and stopping at this circle. Here's another example where the line shares a stop with the outer tram. And here's another example. When the tram turns around, it comes down here and it goes to stop 153, and you can exchange passengers with people that are circumventing the island. And you're going to find that I do this technique on almost every single tram line that I use. Here's another one. What this line probably does is it goes from the mainland across to the island. I'll show you how this one works. Once I figure out which one it is, of course. Maybe it's tram line 11. Okay, it is tram line 11. So what I did for this particular tram is it's basically following around this route. It's going, there you can see it highlighted a little better. It's going along the coast, over the bridge, along the coast again, into the depot, along the coast, over the other bridge on the right. And I will highlight the road so you can see. It starts over here in the green area in the north, and it comes on the lower road. It crosses over this bridge. It takes the lower level here, gets to this coastal road here, returns over the bridge, and returns into the depot, which is here. So that line, that's a technique that I use when I have two bridges, and I probably have bus lines that do the same thing. It moves people between the islands, basically.